Several years ago, my lovely wife and I had a chance to go to Israel. It was a trip that we had dreamed about, and we're sitting on this lovely hillside in a pasture overlooking the Sea of Galilee. Our guide starts reciting the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness. Well, that was one of the first verses I had ever memorized growing up as a child. And in thinking about it, I had an image of what the path of righteousness was. It was, living a clean life, following God's teachings, and so forth. But the guide went on to say, 3,000 years ago, everyone that heard that would have known exactly what that psalm was talking about. And she pointed over on these hills, and you see these tracks going back and forth where you can see these well-worn paths that the sheep had walked on over years. Well, the path of righteousness is a technical term to a shepherd over in Israel. Terms have meanings that change over the years. But there are some terms that are fairly recent that we kind of interpret as we've had them all our lives. So think about the concept of the American dream. If I just say that, there is some kind of picture that's being brought up in your mind. Well, the first time that was actually used was in 1934 in a book called The Epic of America, written by James Truslow Adams. And he was just struck by the fact that you actually could move from one station in life to an entirely different station in life, which was really radical at that time. But we think about that term as if it's been around all the time. Well, why is that, and why do a lot of people seem to not achieve the American dream? And statistics say that more than 70% of millennials don't think they have a shot at the American dream anymore, and that's tragic. But why is that? Well, achieving a dream, you'll hear this on a lot of the action talks on this platform. It is about action. Our actions are 100% responsible for our accomplishments in life. Not our research, not our study, not our knowledge, but our actions. Well, what determines our actions? It's how you see the world. So, for example, in 1896, Lord Kelvin, brilliant British physicist and mathematician, engineer, made the bold statement, heavier than air flying machines are impossible. So how much time do you think he spent trying to create a heavier than air flying machine? That's how he saw the world. He wasn't going to waste his time. Fortunately, for most of us who flew to this event or fly to conferences all over the world, the Wright brothers viewed the world differently. They viewed a world where heavier than air flight was possible, and they proved that they were right. Well, where do we get our view of the world? It's from something called terministic screens. Scholar Kenneth Burke defines a terministic screen as a function of language, words, terms, phrases, and their relationship to each other that directs our aspects to viewing certain pieces of the world. And it's a lot like wearing contact lenses. We may not even know that we have them. We don't see the lens, and we don't see the world. We see what that lens allows us to see. Well, why does that matter? As an investment advisor, I've worked with clients for 30 years or so, hundreds over that time period, and more often than not, if I ask them about kind of what's just your view of investing, what do you think about it? I often get terms like it's confusing, it's complex, it's scary, it's intimidating, it's rigged, it's gambling. All of those are really positive terms, right? So kind of like Lord Kelvin, how exciting is it for people to engage in this activity that would help them achieve their American dream? if they have such this negative view of it? So that's a lot of the work that we do with clients, but the American dream is a lot more than just about money. Sure, you want to change your view of that, but most people aren't strictly pursuing money. It's absolutely necessary. I put it right up there with clothing and groceries and those kinds of things. If you're a teenager, your phone may be more important than money at this point. You just may not realize it. But what is going to help us pursue our dream? And think about the deterministic screens that you have in your life. Now, some of them you get by design. Screens are amoral. They're not good or bad. They just exist. A few years ago, one of my sons was in a very terrible motorcycle accident. He was bleeding out on the pavement in Charleston, South Carolina. Thankfully, emergency personnel were there quickly. He was transported to the city hospital in Charleston, and the ER physician that was on duty was a former Navy trauma surgeon. He spent years and dollars, his and the taxpayers, creating a deterministic screen that allowed him to see, oh, I need to repair the femoral artery. Oh, we need to get this glass out so that we don't cause more damage. So screens can be positive. Think about the hobbies you have, your various professions, what you're using to make a living. That's a screen that you have that you're purposely creating. But what about the screens that we're not aware of? What about the screens that we just acquire over life, like thinking what a path of righteousness is in, reading a scripture? So there's a few steps that you want to take to start assessing these screens. And the first is just to create a list. Start with your hobby, start with your profession, but then dig a little deeper. How do I have screens around, am I a Republican or a Democrat? What are my screens maybe around racial issues? What's my screens around capitalism versus socialism? Creation versus evolution? My point is not arguing for a particular position. It's giving yourself permission to examine, why do I even believe what I believe? Because accomplishing your dreams isn't just about money. That's a byproduct of living your passion. Carl Jung said, if you make until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. So take the time to create the list and examine it. If you're really brave, add to that list, why haven't I started that business? Why haven't I bought that piece of property? Why haven't I taken that trip? Why haven't I enjoyed that experience? Just as a recent example, I heard someone say that they are planning to take a trip to space. So give yourself permission to dream big and expand your screens and the limitations that you've maybe put on yourself. After you create the list, number 2, challenge where those beliefs came from. If you stay with that same belief, great. At least you've reinforced, this is why I believe that. Do some research. I would encourage you to watch a documentary or a movie or read a book of the opposite side of what you believe. Worst case scenario, you just have another understanding for communicating with someone that disagrees with you. But it allows you to confirm either I'm on the path that I want to be on purpose, or wow, maybe I need to change my screen and make a different path going forward. Create the list, challenge your belief, and then make a choice. You hear that a lot on these talks. Make a choice consciously. Live your life intentionally. John Maxwell, in his book, 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, has a law I think it's law number 12 called the law of curiosity. Be willing to explore those things and choose to make a difference and take a different path. All of those things can help you pursue your American dream and understand the American dream isn't just about a someday when. It is not about a particular amount of money. Oh, if I have $1 million, I will have achieved the American dream. Oh, if I go to Hawaii next year, I will have achieved the American dream. No, it is something that you should be living right now on a day-to-day basis, fulfilling your purpose. Well, we do a 2-day workshop talking about the American dream with clients. And one of the unfortunate byproducts, I really shouldn't say unfortunate, one of the interesting byproducts is if you constantly talk about something, you begin to realize, oh, I should be doing that. I can't just talk about it. And so during COVID, my wife started watching a lot of YouTube videos on homesteading. She had time on her hands. She started talking about raising chickens, growing bees, cattle, hogs, all these kinds of things. Well, I'm a city boy. You know, I like my pizza on Friday night. I'm driving 9 to 5 to the office, Krispy Kreme Saturday morning when the light comes on. And so I'm thinking, honey, we're not cut out for farming. That's not our deal. Well, some of you in the room perhaps, and certainly online, you don't need to take your kids out of the room. I'm not going any farther than the shirt. But this is about action. It's not about just watching videos. So I want to demonstrate something and just illustrate that you do need to take action. About 1.5 years ago, my very persuasive wife convinced me to go buy a farm south of Nashville. And we became homesteaders. Now, I still love my job. I still love working with clients. I still go to the office 9 to 5 most days. God bless the internet and wireless service that I can work from home if I need to. But now, instead of maybe turning on Fox News or CNN, pick your poison, we've become homesteaders. Now, I am still a financial advisor, but that's what I do. That's not who I am. Many of you may be thinking about what's that next step I could take. Now, I was kind of afraid of it, frankly, because I'm the kind of person that calls a friend or gets on the internet and says, okay, we need to fix the air conditioner. You know, the fan belt's broken. I'm not a mechanical person. I'm a nerd. I like tax law. I like studying investment work and all that kind of stuff. Grew up on it, reading my dad's copy of Forbes when he was at work. I didn't get any of those racy magazines. I was kind of a nerd from really early on. I was reading about the Wall Street Journal. But understand, achieving your dream is about taking action. It's not just watching a video. Use these as seeds for changing your life. You're going to hear some great talks on this platform. Don't just watch them. Don't just listen. Create that list of how you're viewing the world. Change those screens. It's really hard to put a new screen on top of an old one. I'll use the example of creation and evolution. Very few people hold both of those beliefs. There's some change. You kind of have to get rid of the old screen. But boy, when you do that, you start living passionately. I would have never thought that I would have gone to a course 2 weeks ago on learning how to make soil grow more efficiently because it's being depleted by chemicals. I'm taking a trip in a couple of months to England to see how they raise hogs in England and Scotland. Don't limit yourself. Go through the list, choose the screens that you want to take, and for heaven's sakes, enjoy writing the next chapter in your life as you pursue your American dream. Thank you.